Everyone, hope everyone had a wonderful, wonderful week. This week is Parshas Lech Lecha, and I heard a very, very fascinating idea from Rav Moshe Benovitz that I wanted to share. He raised the following question: Is if I ask, we're introduced to Avram Avinu in this week's Parsha. First time we're introduced to Avram. Again, we were introduced to him at the end of Parshas Noach, but here we have the full story of Avram Avinu. And if I were to ask anyone, what is the godless, what is the greatness of Avram Avinu, the first Jew? So I think we get different answers in two different veins. We get, on the one hand, we are told that Avram Avinu was the first monotheist. He's the first person who reaches out and looks for Hashem and finds Hashem. He looks at the heavens, he sees the sun, he sees the moon, he sees the stars, he sees the beautiful universe, and he says, if you have such a beautiful palace, such a beautiful universe, there must be a Borei Olam, there must be someone who has brought it all together, who has created. There must be, it's not just that we worship the sun. There must be someone, something who created the sun, the moon, etc. And he comes to be the first monotheist. He brings a life of non-avodah zarah, non-pagan existence into the world. Amazing, amazing, amazing. And then when we think about Avram Avinu, we also think about him as the paragon of chesed. He's the paragon of hachnasas orchim. He's the paragon of Kiruv, es hanefesh asher asu b'charan. So when it comes to Avram Avinu, the first Jew, or first of our avos, we see an excelling, an excellence, a perfecting perhaps of both bein adam lamakom and bein adam lachavero. And that's very, very unusual. We live in a world of specialization. And one might argue that if you have two domains that are very similar to each other, so then multitasking, to do both, to excel in both, okay, I can understand. You have a person like a professional athlete, LeBron James, who now we're going to be told is also going to play tight end for a football team. So it would be an amazing feat, but not shocking. After all, he's 6'7", 6'8", he's 260, 70, 80 pounds. He's tremendously athletic. He has tremendous coordination. He's tremendously strong. You know what? That makes sense. That makes sense. A Bo Jackson, a Deion Sanders, who can go ahead and excel in football and excel in baseball. So hand-eye coordination, tremendous speed, tremendous athleticism. Yeah, I can understand that. That can make some sense. But if one were to tell you that LeBron James is a world-class violinist, an expert in Shakespearean poetry, so you might look at that, really? He's an athlete, he's not an expert in Shakespearean poetry and violin. Those two domains are so far apart. To have excellence in both, it's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine. And here we have Avram Avinu, who I would argue at first blush, ben adam lechaver, ben adam lamakom, are fundamentally opposed. They're very different. A relationship to Hashem is focused on me, myself, and my relationship to the Ribono Shel Olam and his mitzvos. My relationship to my fellow man, it's a totally different sphere. It's a totally different domain. That's basketball and violin. Yet Avram Avinu seems to excel in both. It must be that there is a deep relationship between the two. It must be a deep connection between the two. And perhaps one could suggest on a very simple level that no, there's no stira. They are related because roa echad nemram. It's all coming from one shepherd. It's all coming from one source. The mitzvahs ben adam lamakom, ben mitzvahs ben adam lachavero. It's all one source, and therefore, if I am a mamin b'Hashem, and I realize He commanded me to keep Shabbos, and He commanded me to do hachnasas orchim, so it's all two sides of the very same coin. There's no stira, there's no contradiction. They are indeed one domain. One can argue, and that's a simple pshat. Rav Benovitz took it one step deeper. A person who is a Baal Chesed. He's a Chesed-oriented person. So what does that mean to be a Chesed-oriented person? He wants to do good by others. He doesn't want to hurt others. So sometimes, perhaps more often than not, to be a Baal Chesed, to be someone who's really, really focused, has to be able to perceive things that he doesn't really see. You have a friend, you have a neighbor. Everything seems fine, everything seems regular. But if you have a keen sense, you might realize you don't see things that are not okay, but perhaps there's a sick person in the family, perhaps there's shalom bayis challenges. If a person understands that just like we have our stuff, everyone has their stuff. You don't see it always. The outside world doesn't see it. But to be sensitive to things that are going on that are not readily evident to the naked eye. And have that in mind when we relate to our fellow man, to realize that we all have stuff, even if I don't see it. It's there, and therefore sensitivity, kindness, givingness has to be part of our raison d'etre. In the dormitories in yeshiva, we find this very often. My roommates are up, so I can make a lot of noise, but on the other side of the wall, maybe they're sleeping. I don't see them, so they don't exist. No, that's not what a Baal Chesed does. That's not how a Baal Chesed lives. Whether I see it or not, I know that there's something there. And you translate that midah to Ben Adam La Makom, it's the same exact idea, is that we don't always see Hashem. It's not readily apparent sometimes. We can live life and not see Hashem. But you look at the moon, you look at the sun, you look at the stars, you look at the human body, you look at the world around us, the beauty, the sunsets, the sunrises, the perfection of the Bria. So we don't always see Hashem. But the ability to have a real relationship with Hashem means, and is premised on, perceiving that which we don't always see, to feel that which we don't always see, to be sensitive to that which we don't always see right in front of our eyes. And that perhaps is the common denominator, a common denominator. How an Avram Avinu can be a paragon of Chesed and Ben Adam Lamakom because they are one domain. It's an ability to be sensitive to even things that are not right in front of my face, to be sensitive to the needs of my chaverim, and at the same time to be sensitive to, wow, I don't always see Hashem right in front of my face, but of knowledge and emunah, a bitachon that Hashem is there running the world, and if I look a little deeper, of course that is the case. That's the legacy that Avram Avinu left with us, and we should be zoche to adopt that legacy, bein ba'adam lemalkom, bein adam lechavero, and really truly be mizera Avram Avinu.